Hello, welcome to Flower Joos. My name is John McDonald, and today our inspiration for our video is actually from this container. Now you're probably looking thinking, what is it? Well, it's actually a piece of polystyrene packaging out of a box of, I think it was a food processor or something, but it had lots of bits. So it's got all these different compartments, and I thought this would be really useful for making into something at some point. So what I've done is I've sprayed it black, and that's stopping it looking like a big bit of polystyrene, which is a good thing. Now this space here, I've put in some wet foam, and I've just put a large or a strong piece of wire through, which is just holding that in. And then I dug out this little bit so I've got a little bit of leeway to bring materials this way as well. And the stand itself is just sitting on a metal spike. So these metal spikes you can get, and I just skewered it on. But I think having the angle is quite interesting. We could have had it just standing, but then it looks very static. So straight away, by putting it on a spike, putting it on an angle, then it's much more interesting. Now the only thing I've done is I've used a little bit of the polystyrene at the back to help secure that spike. So we need to be cautious about the weight of material that's going to be in this. But I think we've got an interesting container, and because this is quite bold, I wanted to use some bold materials. So the materials I've kind of lined up for this is we have some aspidistra, some anthurium, this is some canna flowers, I've got some papyrus stems as well, and I've got one or two smaller pieces as well. So we've got some sedum and some dahlias. So we'll just see how this goes as we make it. So the first thing I want to do actually is give the aspidistra leaves a little bit of a spray, and that's just going to make them a little bit shinier. So in a way this feels kind of industrial or future world, and that is just going to give them a little bit of a shine and a nicer finish. And now we can look at what we want to do. So personally, I find these really, really interesting. The pampas or the papyrus grass. And I think what I would like to do is, great thing with these is you can bend them. So is use these to bring in a line into our design. So you could use any stem that's straight, it doesn't really matter what. And yes, there is going to be some water come out of this. That's just the nature of how that's going to work. But it's not, you don't need to worry about it really. We will use the heads, we can do that. And what I can do actually is just use a little bit of wire just to attach this. So by creating that onto like a peg, I can come in. Well, I can go in different directions. Actually, this is better. I was thinking of coming through, but this is quite interesting. So we've given it an area that's a contrast really to our container. And what we can do now is just add our papyrus. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to take the tips off, and we end up with a much more stronger sort of shape. Sometimes the tips can be a little bit raggedy, but also I think this fits in a little bit better with what we're wanting. And I've used this material before, and you've probably heard me say, but this is so easy to grow. You just turn it upside down and put it into water, and it just grows. It'll just take root. You can have it outside in the summer. but you need to bring it in the winter. So even these pieces from the aspidistra you could use, and this is actually a lot stronger, but you don't have the length with it, which is a shame. So the aspidistra I'm just using to basically roll, create a little bit of interest. But we'll keep these, we might use them. And I definitely want to start to hide this material that's been damaged that we're seeing with white. When I was spraying it, I hadn't actually thought how it was going to sit. So as long as we hide it, it doesn't matter. And then at a later date, we can spray that. So I think now what we want is, we want to bring in our canna. And I'm just looking to see how it is. But this is really going to show up well against the black. And any ones that are starting to go, you can just pull off. It's not a big issue. But you can really see that that is quite zingy and quite interesting. I really would like to get one that just goes behind. Yeah, so we're just taking our eye through this space is quite good as well. So I think what we need is some material just to base into this space here. So I've got some sedum. So this is an ideal material for that. You can actually take that down into quite small pieces. So this is only one stem, but it actually goes quite a long way. And again, another material that's really easy to grow in the garden. And it'll last quite happily in the foam, the floral foam. So we've got a nice feeling of space here, which is a good contrast to our rather heavy piece of material. So now I want to have a wee look and see where we're going to put the anthuriums. But before we kind of decide, let's just put our dahlia in. That we can put the two. So with the anthurium, they've got a really nice, strong stem. And because of that, it's quite easy to work it in between the flowers that are there, so we don't need to worry. So this is our base at the moment. Now, I can feel this is a little bit off, so we can cheat a little bit. And we can add a little bit of weight at the back. That's not a problem. But what would happen is if we were to add this flower here, this is going to change the weight as well. So we need to decide where we're going to put our anthuriums. But I do want to bring one really to the front. And then actually there. When you're working with flowers, you have to step back and you have to look and you have to check and decide and just make decisions and judgments. And that's really the fun of it as well. So don't necessarily think, well, how do I know where to put things? It's a case of looking and seeing. And there we go. We've got a funky arrangement using actually not a lot of materials and using a piece of everyday object that you would just have put in the bin, but we've created something different with it. And we could reuse this in different ways at a later stage. But I think we've got quite an eye-catching design. So I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, click here to subscribe, and we look forward to seeing you again soon for another design.